Okay, we got to start with high school. So, I'm sure that a lot of people will go to this film. Kristen will be like, she's a movie star. She must have just had a fabulous high school experience. Must have been the queen of everything. Was that you?
Oh, hardly. Hardly. High school is difficult for everyone. And there are parallel situations that happen. Even the mean girl has a mean girl. I got along with everyone because I was very nervous, slightly awkward, but I was so terrified that people wouldn't like me that I was kind of always on my best behavior, and I led with the compliment, and I just was kind of just too nervous to be rejected, I think. So I wasn't always comfortable in my own skin, but I was always very nice because I was so terrified that people would be mean to me that I didn't want to do it to anyone else. And I think, as I've grown up, you get more confident and you look back at high school and you think, gosh, I was such a dork. But it is what it is, Everybody's growing up in high school. It's going to be miserable for everyone. So
I feel like everyone feels that way. Yeah. You just look back and you're like, wow, I was a dork. And in my high school, the cool thing was to get straight A's. And, whenever you'd get your tests back, it was, what did you get, 98? Ooh, 100, boom. So that was a big insecurity of mine, just coming into school every day and not feeling prepared. Or the kids, in high school, they're always so competitive, and you're really shaping who you are and finding your own path. And it's not easy. It's never really easy. And then you look back and you're like, why did I stress out? What was that for? But everybody will go through it. It's a part of life.
I'm hearing interesting tidbits in both of your descriptions about high school that kind of relate to being an actor. Do you see some parallels there? I mean, Kristen, you were saying you weren't comfortable in your own skin. So now you get to play out of your own skin a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, do you see a connection there?
Yeah, well, Hollywood is exactly like high school.
It is.
It's a group of people attempting to interact with a lot of crazy competition and jealousies. And at the root of it, just like at the root of high school, everyone just wants to be loved. Everyone just wants to be accepted. Now that I've sort of gained confidence, and not even confidence, but the ability to sort of surrender and go it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what size my jeans are as long as I'm healthy. It doesn't matter if I have a pimple because I'm a good person and people won't judge me based on one blemish. Those aren't ideas you can connect and really digest until you're older. So I'm happy now, but that's not to say I don't wake up every other day with some ridiculous insecurity. Mm-hmm. It's just the way we're built. I think as human beings, we're always constantly trying to fit in.
And as women especially. Women have a harder time. Maybe this isn't true than men.
No, I think so. Women are more masochistic than men.
Yeah, I think so. It's just difficult, and you can compare Hollywood to high school. You walk into a room and you see all of these beautiful women. They're all competing for the same role, but you have to realize that you are worth it as well. And that sounds so cheesy, but it's so true. And if a part is meant to be yours, then it's meant to be yours. And if not, then you've got to move on and you've got to keep going. Just like in high school, it's all about confidence, and you always will have those insecurities, but you got to get through them.
And it's also the idea of your validation can't be from any one thing. If I don't get a certain part, I can't think I'm worthless.
Right.
Your validation has to come out of when you lay your head on the pillow at night. Were you cool that day? And I don't mean cool like the coolest person in the room. I mean, were you a good person that day, or were you an a-hole? Because if you were an a-hole, you need to adjust. But if you were nice to people and you were polite and you had fun, then you're probably leading a pretty good life. And that's what matters. And it's so difficult to accept that I didn't get that part, and I didn't get the previous one, but I'm going to keep an optimism that I'll get the next one.
But life becomes so much easier once you do accept that.
Yeah.
It really does.
I think to a certain extent, high school, at least the way we define it and the way it's portrayed in our films, is a somewhat uniquely American experience. But from what I'm hearing in this conversation, would you say that a lot of the themes, a lot of the things that are expressed in You Again is something that translates to an international audience? Anybody in the world is going to relate to what's going on.
I think anybody in the world.
I think any country, any person who has been 14 to 18 will understand what this movie is about. It doesn't matter what language you speak, it doesn't matter where you live. When human beings are herded together, our DNA requires us to create a hierarchy. And it isn't until you have sort of adjusted your perception of the world when you get to be 30 that you realize how unnecessary that is. But that's how we were when we were cavemen, and that's what we want to do. And so
we're humans. It's what happens.
High schoolers want to categorize people and sort of figure out who they are before they really have the tools to do so.
Well, speaking of a hierarchy, you guys get to play with moms who are of a very high Hollywood hierarchy. Was that exciting when you found out?
And grandmothers.
Yes, true. What the cast was going to look like for you?
I was really nervous, and I felt really insecure coming in because Kristen's a vet at comedy, and so is Sigourney and Jamie and Betty, and I mean, really, Kristen Chenoweth. We should talk about her more. That little...
She's a fairy.
She really is. I was just over the moon because they were so welcoming, and they took me in with open arms, and they really did treat me on the same level, every single one of them, as them. So, it was great. I'm very thankful.
She's really difficult to dislike. I've looked. There's really not a flaw. It's unfortunate.
Not true. Not true.
Well, before we run out of time, tell me just a little bit about the relationship you have with Andy. I mean, you guys have really a unique history.
We do.
You know.
We've been lovers for a very, very long time. Andy and I met almost 10 years ago in New York City doing a play called Reefer Madness. And he was the one that convinced me to move to Los Angeles. Otherwise, I'm positive I wouldn't have done so. And he and the other cast members from Reefer Madness were just kind of there for me as a family. It's really difficult to move to a new city and not know anyone, and they supported me. And he and I have worked together on and off for the last 10 years, doing a lot of projects that are way smaller than this, just in tiny theaters that seat 40 people and doing plays and musicals, and we're finally collaborating again, on the big screen, and we're really happy about it.